After 13 years of anticipation, James Cameron finally released a new movie directed by him, and it is the long-awaited sequel to the highest-grossing movie of all time, Avatar. But was it worth the 13-year wait? Hi, I'm Jack, and welcome back, because today I'm going to give you guys a review for one of my most anticipated movies of the whole year that I've been waiting for a very long time. Avatar: The Way of Water. I can't believe I'm finally here to say this, but it is directed by James Cameron, and it stars Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldaña, Sigourney Weaver, Stephen Lang, Kate Winslet, Cliff Curtis, and many more. And with that said, let's get started. The movie follows Jake, Sully, and Neytiri as they have formed a family and are doing everything they can to stay together after the events of the first Avatar a decade later. However, when an ancient threat resurfaces, they must leave their home and everything they know in Pandora and explore the ocean regions of the world, and they must fight a difficult war against the humans. It's been 100 years since Avatar came out, and I've been waiting for a very long time. When is the sequel ever going to come out, and is it ever going to happen? Because I've been hearing about this since I was a little kid, and how there's supposed to be 4 sequels, but they kept getting delayed by every year, and I'm saying to myself, is this movie ever going to see the light of day? It's not 100 years, but you get the point. So I was really excited for this movie. I enjoyed the first Avatar. It's a great movie. It's definitely not my favorite of James Cameron's movies, but the visual effects are some of the best to ever be put into a movie. And I was really excited for the sequel for many reasons leading up to the release of it, because it's James Cameron, one of the most influential directors of all time, who's made 2 of some of the highest grossing movies of all time with Titanic and Avatar. And he's made 2 of some of the best sequels of all time with Aliens and Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So I was really excited for the sequel because I look at James Cameron's track record, how long it's been for him to be making this movie, and so has the wait since the first movie. And I was really excited. I love what we got in the marketing and the trailers. And just leading up to it, I was so excited to finally return to Pandora and to get a new James Cameron movie for the first time in 13 years. But the big question is, was that movie worth the 13-year wait? Yes, it was. James Cameron is back. He proves yet again why he is a master of sci-fi, spectacle, and sequels, and he makes a movie that takes everything that worked about the first movie and made it even better. Starting off with the positives, I love the cast. Sam Worthington is terrific as Jake Sully. I liked him in the first movie, but he's even better in this movie. You've seen how he's really grown as an actor now that he's much more seasoned into the role of Jake Sully, and it clearly shows that here, and how he's now a father who wants to protect Neytiri and the kids from danger now that it's been a decade since Avatar took place. And I love what we got in this movie, how he interacts with the characters, how he interacts with the kids, how he interacts with the Metcalina tribe. I love him in this movie. He is fantastic. And Zoe Saldaña, although she's a little more sidelined here than in the first movie, she is fantastic. There is a lot of heartbreaking moments that come out of this movie from Neytiri, and Zoe Saldaña is just so great in the movie. There's a lot of scenes that I loved from her in this movie. She shows how she's both now a mother and a warrior who will do everything to protect her people and so as protect her family from harm. And I love her in this movie. They both do a really good job here. And Sigourney Weaver, who played Grace Augustine in the first Avatar movie, is brought back here as another character, and that is Kiri, the daughter of Jake and Neytiri. I was curious for a while who she was going to play in this movie, and I never once questioned that Kiri was basically played by Sigourney Weaver, because she pulled off playing a teenager so well in this movie. I love Sigourney as an actress. I love her as Ellen Ripley, and so as in other stuff she's been in. And so I love her in this movie once again. I love her as Kiri, and so as how important she is for the plot in this movie, and so as just what she does with all these other characters, and so as just what she's dealing with personally. I really like her a lot in this movie. And you got Stephen Lang returning as Colonel Miles Quaritch, the villain of the first movie who died. And so for years I was wondering, how's he going to come back? We got the answer, and I do like the answer to how they bring him back. I'm not going to spoil it, but he is even more menacing and wicked in this movie than he was in the first. He is despicable. He's evil. He's done a lot of horrible things in this movie that makes what he did in the first movie look like it was nothing. And He truly brings a lot of layers and just ferocity into this role. And he is one of the best movie villains of the year so far, and even of the past couple of years. I love what Stephen Lang does with this character in this movie, and so as how they handle Miles Corch here. He is a very heinous person in this movie, and I love him as a villain. How his return just sets everything off the rails, and I really like him a lot here. And the supporting cast is also really great with Britton Dalton, Trinity Jolie Bliss, Bailey Bass, Jack Champion, Kate Winslet, Cliff Curtis. Everybody here is great. I liked a lot of the new characters here, especially having Jake and Neytiri be parents with kids really adds a new layer of things into this movie, and there's more of an emotional core, which is also really nice. Because the first movie did have some really emotional moments, like the Tree of Souls just crumbling down, it's falling upon the Na'vi, which is a very powerful moment, but the emotional core in the first movie wasn't quite as present as much, but it's a lot more present in this movie. We have a lot more of an emotional connection to our characters and the situation at hand in this movie, which I really appreciate. I connected with the characters a lot more in the current situations at hand. Now that Jake and Neytiri are parents with a family and they really want to protect them because this is a family story, and I love that a lot. Overall, the cast brings their A game and they are absolutely fabulous in this movie. The visual effects and cinematography are some of the best I've ever seen in a movie in general, and it's the best I've seen for a movie all year. It is a beautiful looking movie. This is one of the reasons why James Cameron and the crew worked on this movie for a while before it finally came out, because it looks very expensive and it shows. And so as the fact that you can't really differentiate what's real and what's added in CGI, because it looked very much like they filmed it on another planet and they actually had all of these things at their disposal. It is a beautiful looking movie. There are a lot of shots, whether it's of the landscape of Pandora on land, whether it's of the ocean, or whether it's up in space. It is a gorgeous film, and it must be witnessed on the biggest screen possible, because I saw this in IMAX 3D, and considering I'm not really much of a 3D person, this movie just blew me away in 3D. I think it's a movie that is built for the big screen. You're not going to get much out of this if you watch it at home. So please go rush out in theaters and go see it, because this movie is the best looking movie I've seen all year, and it is one of the most beautiful looking movies of all time. And I love how they're able to really make the CGI look as good as it can be, so that when you see it, it really shows you how much power a blockbuster can have, and show you that James Cameron is a master of visual effects and of pushing things forward for filmmaking. And this is just such a well-detailed movie with how it's detailing the ocean and the Na'vi, because now you got the Jake, Sully, and Neytiri, the Omaticaya clan Na'vi, and then you got the Mekayina Na'vi, and how they're very different in terms of the detail. And it looks impeccable. There's not a single shot in this movie where I think, it doesn't look finished. It looked spectacular. Simon Franklin composes the score, taking over for the late James Horner. May he rest in peace. The score here is fantastic. It repeats some motifs and brings back some iconic themes from that first Avatar movie. Brings it back here with some new twists to it, and it's a really great score. There are a lot of really good tracks in this movie. There's even a song by The Weeknd, which is really good. There's a really great score for this movie that I really like, and it fits the atmosphere, and it definitely is utilized well with where it's placed, how it's used, and so as what's placed throughout this movie and the certain and just individual tracks itself. It is a very good score, and I hope Simon Franklin gets more work here, because it definitely is a great score for an Avatar movie yet again. Something this movie definitely improves at is the tension and the suspense. James Cameron is a master of building suspense for us to care for these characters, and that when they're in danger, they really are in danger. It's not, oh, we got 3 sequels going, they'll be fine. Everybody is at a point where they could possibly get killed. It is a very tensionful movie. There is a lot of very suspenseful moments that happen throughout this movie, with Miles Corch and the humans being very evil people in this movie, even more vicious than they were in the first movie. You see that they are not here to joke around. They are serious threats that must be taken care of. And we really feel for Jake, Sully, and the family, how we want them to be okay, how they go off to the ocean ecosystem so that they can find a way to be safe. There is a lot of points throughout this movie where tension lurks at every corner. They could possibly die at any point in this movie. And you really feel the suspense throughout this movie. And I like it a lot because now the stakes are high and personal, where now Jake, Sully, and Neytiri got something to lose. And they're trying to do whatever it takes to stay alive and take on this threat and not die in the process. And I like that a lot. There's a compelling story that's more original than the first movie story, and it's much more compelling, and you have a much more personal and high-stakes story where you care about the character's survival, and there are points where I was on the edge of my seat. I was so scared for our characters throughout the entire movie, and I really like that a lot here. It is, once again, utilized very well with how dangerous the situations appear to be and how they play out. There's a lot of tension at every point, and I really enjoy how it's executed and presented. The world building in this movie is just as amazing as in the first movie, because in the first movie, we explored the rainforest area of Pandora, but now we're exploring the ocean ecosystem of Pandora, and tying back to what I said about the visual effects being some of the best I've ever seen for a movie, the ocean ecosystem of Pandora is absolutely mind-blowing how beautiful it looks. We see how there's messages about protecting the ocean, protecting the environment and its inhabitants, because we're now in an age where people pollute the ocean and they dump all their trash and stuff that shouldn't be there. And so as the fact that how it hurts the ocean environment, because the ocean is 70% of our world. And James Cameron definitely shows how he loves the ocean, he cares for it. And this movie has a message where it's like, save the whales, protect the creatures of the ocean, and to keep it clean. Because that's what the Na'vi does. They're taking care of the environment while the humans in this movie are here to mine for its resources, which puts the ecosystem at risk. And I think this movie can be really useful for those who love the ocean. And James Cameron shows it on display here. And how he explores the ocean and how he builds this world of Pandora is amazing. And it's so well detailed. And the ocean ecosystem of Pandora is so beautiful that it feels like we went to a whole other planet. Not just with Pandora in general, but just even from the rainforest. They are both so beautifully detailed that it feels like just going from one area to the next, it feels like we're on another planet entirely, and I love it. The ocean area of Pandora is just so beautiful here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what James Cameron does to expand Pandora in the sequels. Something that James Cameron once again delivers in this sequel is the third act. It's one of the best third acts I've ever seen for a movie all year, alongside Top Gun Maverick. It's a third act where at every point, danger keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. And in this movie, it's a similar thing where I kept feeling like I was even more shocked by how things play out. And the danger is rising. Characters are in danger. Characters are on the brink of death. Characters are still alive. Action everywhere, up above, on the ships, on the ocean, and then underneath the ocean. There is action everywhere. And the action sequences here are fantastic. James Cameron has a good eye for how he shoots action sequences. They're visceral. They are action-packed. They're exciting. They're intense. You feel the danger. It's so amazing how and exciting the third act is, where all the build-up stuff led us to this moment where now everything's about to go crazy at any point. And it's just so impressive how all this is pulled off. Because once again, it doesn't feel like this is CGI. It feels real. And that's what's so impressive to me about all this in this movie. And I love the climax. I love how it plays out. I love what happens with the characters. There's a lot of things that really pulled the rug out from under me and caught me by surprise. And so as the fates of characters, everything goes absolutely off the rails in this third act in a good way, where James Cameron knows how to deliver a satisfying and a big action sequence for the third act, and how he delivers spectacle is incredible. For a movie that's 3 hours and 12 minutes long, making this the longest movie I've ever seen in a theater, I was never bored at any point. Never had to go to the bathroom. I was so invested in this movie that if this was 4 hours long, I'd be seated. I wouldn't care, because I was so into this movie and I was loving it. that I did not want it to end. And when it ended, it was like, I loved it, but it was like, I want more. And that's why I'm happy we got another movie coming out in just 2 years. So this is a movie that's very well paced. I don't agree with those that say it's a very slow movie because I was so invested in what was occurring. Whether we're just exploring the oceans, characters interacting, just seeing the gorgeous imagery on display, or whether it's a big spectacle sequence occurring. I love that a lot. I was never bored during this movie, and for a movie of this runtime, that could be rare to pull off, but I loved every second of it. This movie has so much heart where you care about the characters, you care about the situations at hand, and you see that because the situations are getting dangerous and intense, you care about all these characters, how the movie develops these characters where, yeah, we could have had more of certain characters, but I really enjoyed what we got as a whole, and I really liked how this movie concludes. I like that this is a family story. It's made clear about that right from the get-go, that this is a story about family.
You don't turn your back on family.
And there's a lot of moments where I just felt the relationships between them. It's believable, I cared, and so as with all these things that go out with their war against the humans, it once again is pushed forward and in very exciting and very surprising ways. And I just love that at the center of it all, it's a personal story about family and what they will do to endure and survive all of these things. It delivers on it, and it presents that very well. And I love how it ends, where it had a conclusive ending, where it does have some ties that sets up the sequels, but it does wrap up the main central storyline of Avatar: The Way of Water really well. One thing I have that's more of a nitpick, not really an issue, because I love so much about this movie that I don't really have much in terms of issues, is there's one character decision in the back half of this movie that is made. And in some ways, I get why the character would make such a decision, but looking at how everything's played out, I sit there and I'm like, no, what are you doing? Don't do this. And it had me sitting there like, on one hand, I get why you did it, but on the other hand, I'm like, this is not a good idea. Don't do this. And so it's a nitpick, not an issue. It's the one thing in this movie where it's the closest thing for me saying, oh, I wish they didn't do that. But I get why they did it anyway, and whatnot. And so it's a little nitpick of mine. In the end, though, I loved Avatar: The Way of Water. It was most certainly worth the 13-year wait. It's one of the best-looking movies I've ever seen. It takes everything I love about the first movie and doubles down on all of it with the impressive world building, the fantastic performances, the amazing action sequences and spectacle, a personal story about family with heart at the center of everything. And so is how it builds out Pandora even further with a beautiful story and some exciting moments, and it is one of my favorite movies of the entire year, and James Cameron is 3 for 3 with sequels, with Aliens, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and now Avatar: The Way of Water. So with all that said, I'm going to give Avatar: The Way of Water an A+. This movie is an event. Just like Top Gun Maverick, you need to go see this movie in the theater in the biggest screen possible. Go see it in IMAX 3D, because even though I'm not a big 3D person, this movie mesmerized me in 3D. So definitely go do that. And I'm so happy that James Cameron finally has a new movie for the first time in 13 years. And I'm so happy that the wait for the sequels is only like 2 years in between movies. And so that's really awesome. I love this movie a lot. It definitely delivered on its promise and satisfied me, and it is one of my favorite movies of the year. James Cameron shows you once again, you don't doubt him when it comes to making movies, and he once again delivers. I definitely hope you guys will go see this movie. Whether you're not big on Avatar or not, definitely go check this out. It's absolutely worth all your time and money, and I'm so excited for the future of the Avatar franchise after this, because when it ended, I wanted more, and I'm so happy we got 3 sequels and maybe 2 extra more if James Cameron wants to do it. And so in the end, I love this movie, and I'm so happy we finally got the sequel after 13 years. So yeah, that's my review and thoughts for Avatar: The Way of Water. What are your thoughts on it? Let me know down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Stay tuned for some upcoming videos I have planned. I'm going to have a review for The Menu and Andor Season 1, and hopefully a spoiler review for Avatar: The Way of Water coming your way very soon. So please go stay tuned for all that fun stuff coming your way. And don't forget to follow me on social media. My username is down below at the bottom of the screen and in the description below. So please go do that while you're at it. And thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button, and stay tuned for more.